Christ is risen. On the first Tuesday after Pascha, we read one of the resurrectional Gospels from Luke, where we stop reading John for a day. And the reason why we do this is because there's 11 resurrectional Gospels, but we don't have that many weeks before Pentecost. So we want to read them all, actually, before the end of Pascha. So we want to read, which is just before Pentecost, well, just before Ascension. So we want to read them all so that we get them all in. So this is one of these that we read on Tuesday, the Gospel from Luke about the road to Emmaus. One of my favorites. That one and the one where St. Peter is restored. The last two Gospels. I really can't pick which one I love the most. Then arose Peter and ran into the sepulchre, and stooping down he beheld the linen clothes laid by themselves, and departed, wondering in himself at that which had come to pass. And behold, two of them went the same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 60 furlongs. And they talked together about all these things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together in reason, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were holden that they should not know him. Is that mysterious? Why would they not recognize him? They'd been with him 3.5 years. What was the reason? St. Mark says he appeared in another form to them. Now, my personal opinion is that, my theologuma, my personal opinion is that he still looked like he normally looked, except that he looked perfected. So there was a certain air of, shall we say, perfectness to him. He still had his wounds. We can tell that later. But he shone forth with divine light, probably. And they couldn't recognize him because of grief. Let us never underestimate grief. Grief is your enemy. Now, grief is a friend if you use that energy of grief to change. If you wallow in your grief, then grief will kill you. So we have to be careful about grief. We have to understand the power of grief. Grief made these two disciples unable to recognize Christ. Put yourself in your mind's eye on that day, walking on that road. You'd seen Christ do all these things. You believed he was the Messiah. You believed that everything was going to be better forever. And then he was tried like a common criminal. He was put on a cross naked. He bled. He died. He was put in a sepulcher. The Jews were chasing after the disciples, and the disciples were frightened and terrified. None of this was going according to plan. So this is what grief can do. Their grief made them unable to know who this man was. That's why I tell you, I'm just saying this more and more because I've read something recently from Metropolitan Neophytos, and it's so important. Glory be to thee, O God, for all things. That should be a prayer that you say every day, many, many times a day, and especially say it when something happens to you, when a loved one dies, when there's some calamity that occurs, when you know someone who's something is bad happening to them, when you're betrayed, whatever it is, say, glory be to thee, O God, for all things. Because then you're taking a little bit of edge off that grief. Maybe not all of it, but you're doing something. And God will reward you for the small thing that you do so that he'll help you to do a big thing. If we have happiness, even in the smallest way, God will magnify that. And then we will get over our grief more rapidly. And then we will see him more readily when we're recovered. So may it be that we can see God even in our grief. It takes effort to do that. It's not something easy. It's not like it's just going to fall off a log. You have to struggle at it. And he said to them, what manner of communications are these that ye have one to another as ye walk and are sad? And one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said to him, art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said to him, what things? And they said unto him concerning Jesus of Nazareth, which was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he which would have redeemed Israel. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things took place. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came, saying they had seen a vision of angels that said he was alive. And certain of them also, which were with us, went to the sepulchre and found it even so as the women had said, but him they saw not. So the things that Cleopas said, he should have been able to connect together and realize that indeed the Lord was risen. But he couldn't because of his grief. Let's be compassionate with people that have grief. Let's be compassionate with people that have passions, ignorance, immaturity. We have all those things too. And let's understand that these things can impair a person's understanding. Even something that seems very obvious to us, it's not obvious to them. Then he said to them, O fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken, ought not Christ to have suffered these things and enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So the Lord was speaking to them for who knows, 6 hours, 8 hours? And he was exposing what the scriptures meant. So all these dark passages, such as the unquarried mountain that Habakkuk saw, or the burning bush, or the ladder that Jacob saw from earth to heaven, all these things were about him. Jonah putting his arms in a cross when he was praying in the well. None of these things are expounded clearly in the scriptures. The Lord expounded them to his disciples, and we believe them. And if you want to understand the scriptures, read the services. You can read the fathers too, but the services will tell you everything. And you'll sing it too, and it'll really penetrate into your heart. And also look at where these scriptures are read. So many of these scriptures, they're read then in the feast that has application to what the scriptures are saying. So definitely read the Holy Scriptures, but read them especially in the context of the feasts, and you will learn so much. You will be a biblical scholar if you do this. Isn't it marvelous? We have such a marvelous inheritance, don't we? We understand the scriptures because they were revealed to the apostles by Christ, and then they revealed these things to others. And perhaps other holy men also understood things, and the church understood that these reasonings were true, and we can understand it from the services and from the writings of the fathers and from the church phronema. And we don't have to guess. I don't understand. How is it that people that don't accept the church, how do they understand the scriptures? How do they know what these Old Testament things mean? There's nothing to tell you that Jonah raised his arms in the cross. There's nothing to tell you that the unburnt bush was the Theotokos. We know this. We know this because it was revealed to us. And they drew near unto a village where there they went, and he made as though he would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat at meat with them, he took bread and blessed it and brake and gave it to them, and their eyes were opened. And they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. And they said to one another, Did not our heart burn within us while he talked to us in the way and while he opened to us the scriptures? Such a sweet interaction. They were full of pain, but their heart was burning. And then when it was the right time, God revealed himself to them. So this happens to us also. We must cultivate this burning. You cultivate this burning by prostrations and by prayer and by fasting and by reading the scriptures and reading the Psalter, reading the pertinent Old Testament readings, especially going to the services and listening to them carefully and begging God to enlighten you and feeling things. It's important that we feel things. And if you feel things, you're becoming like God, because God is perfect empathy for us, right? He knows all of our problems. We don't know everybody's problems, but we should care, and our heart should burn. And when your heart burns, it's another way of saying that your heart is opening. And when your heart opens, the light comes in. And they rose up that same hour, and they returned to Jerusalem, and found the 11 gathered together, and them that were with them, saying, The Lord is risen indeed, and hath appeared to Simon. And they told what things were done in the way, and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread. Of course, the breaking of the bread is the Eucharist. It was certainly a symbol of the Eucharist. Whether or not he was serving the Eucharist, I don't have a dogmatic understanding of that. But certainly, they remembered that breaking of the bread, and we know that the Lord was pointing to his Eucharist. Now, why did he appear to Simon alone? Well, because Peter was just messed up. He was messed up by his denial of Christ and also by the death of Christ. And he had so much grief that he had to be restored by the Lord alone. The Lord will do what is necessary for each person. Evidently, John didn't need that. John went to an open tomb and he believed. But Peter needed something more. So the Lord saw Simon separately. The scripture refers to it, but we don't have that interaction written down. And also we know that the Lord appeared to the Mary by herself, Theotokos, that is, but we don't have that written down. But we know that. We know that to be true. Glory be to God that the Lord works through our grief. But you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to say, glory be to God for all things. You got to pray for others. You got to pray for your enemies. You got to do prostrations for people. You've got to cultivate feeling in your heart, not in manufacturing it now, just being open to God enlightening you. Christ is risen. Truly he is risen.